Hello, everyone. We have some seats in the front, and this is an opportunity where you could be very, very close to us. You know, you don't always get that, and especially after COVID, let's take advantage of being intimate. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Word on the Street. My name is Anime, and we are here on the Big Ideas stage. We have the incredible Neil Pasricha. He is in the New York Times bestseller authors of 7 books, including the Book of Awesome and the Happiness Equation, which together have spent over, guess how many weeks on that list? Over 100. Do I have 200? That's right, over 200 weeks on the bestsellers list and have sold over 1 million copies. He hosts the award-winning podcast, 3 books, where he's on a 15-year quest to uncover the 1,000 most formative books in the world by interviewing people such as Malcolm Gladwell, Judy Blume, and the world's top-ranked Uber driver. That's right, the top-ranked Uber driver. So everyone, let's give a big round of applause to Neil Pasricha.
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about what we are going to be doing today. We are going to spend a really good amount of time with you, our audience. So make sure you have all your questions prepared, because we are going to come to you and ask some of your questions. But we are talking about how to be awesome and how to be happy. And so I'm not sure if you noticed, but I am Asian. And just being Asian, a lot of stereotypes, I actually lived them. So one of the stereotypes for sure was, hey, get good grades and you will be happy and you will make your family happy. Hi, Mom, I love you. Sorry, yeah. Win that competition and you will, you're fulfilled. Do this, get this, here are my goals. I don't know if that always made me happy, right? And so one of the things that I want to talk about with you is that right? Like, why are we in this equation? Or just talk to me about that mindset. And then how did you change your mindset and talk to us about what your book actually teaches us?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I'm also Asian.
Are you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, different breed, I guess.
Different breed of Asian,
Close enough. My dad's from Amritsar, India. My mom's from Nairobi, Kenya, and they came to Canada in the 1960s. And so, for me growing up in Oshawa, Ontario, shout out to Oshawa. One person
Oshawa,
in the back.
That's right.
Why they always give the Oshawa people the bad seats? Yeah. It's so I grew up born in Oshawa General Hospital, grew up there, and the model that was presented, and it's not just my parents, it's just generally it's you do great work and then you have a big success and then you be happy. And you said Anime, it's like, work really hard, get good grades. If you're East Indian, become a doctor. That was the
accountant on my side.
Yeah, that works too.
I also lived up to that.
That's in the top 5.
Yeah,
that's in the top 5. Lawyer, engineer. We know the story. But it turns out that there's been a ton of research on happiness over the last 25 years, and essentially all the positive psychology research boils down into the exact opposite framework. We actually need to cultivate happiness like a practice or a habit, and then we do great work because of that. When you're happy, you show up, you're more productive, you're more creative, you get along better with people, you're more promotable, and then the big success comes, both in terms of your connections with your family and your friends, but also in terms of your lifespan. There's research from Kentucky that shows that happy people live an average of 10 years longer. And of course, those extra years are happier you're through them all. And so I've just sort of thought over the last 12 years since my divorce and since loss of my friend when I started writing these awesome things that I'm not a generally an optimistic person, but if I can cultivate this practice, it serves me and the people around me really well. So writing down daily gratitudes, which I still write down one every single day. It's been 15 years now. I still send one out every single night at midnight to people around the world. So if you want to get that, you can get that. It turns out it opens up a part of your brain called your visual cortex, and there's an area in there called Area 17. And when you say, I love that mirrory purse, I love sitting under the shade, I like the smell of the churros up the street, like you're calling back these little moments that actually you relive. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening now and what happened to you in the past. So when you write them down or talk about them like we're doing today, you just become a happier person. So how do you be happy first? It's not as easy as just saying that. It's cultivating small practices. So one thing that I think we really need to do these days that is just hurting all of us, it's just our cell phones are in our bedrooms. People check their cell phones right before they go to bed. They sleep within 5 feet of it. Not yours? Oh, that's good. So put your, just a show of hands here. Put your hand up if you sleep within 5 feet of your cell phone. Just a general show of hands. Okay, let's say 80, at least 80%. That's remarkably low. When I do this with the audience, it's often 90, 95%. So the first step we got to do is we got to get the cell phones out of the bedroom. We got to re-return the cell phone back to its home place. Put it in the kitchen. Put it in the basement. Get it out of reach of our hand. People say, you can't do that. It's my alarm clock. I will say, buy an alarm clock. They're like $10, you know. I can't do that. I'm very important. I get all these calls in the middle of the night. No, you don't. You're really not that important. Nobody's getting that many calls in the middle of the night. And if you are, I say get a landline again. Bell and Rogers, they're desperate to sell you one. They're $15. Nobody needs call waiting call display. Get the cheapest thing. Give that number to the 2 or 3 people that are most important to you. Your sister, your mom, your boss, whatever. And the permission of them calling you relieves you of the obligation of keeping the phone in the bedroom. So when I pay that landline bill, I just think this is just what I'm paying to have the phone out of the bedroom. And then what I suggest you do if you want little equations, Anime, is you start in the morning, just a two-minute morning practice. You write down, I will let go of when you wake up, because everybody wakes up with higher than normal cortisol. We wake up a bit stressed. I am grateful for. This is plumbing your brains for 1 or 2 things that happened yesterday or the day before that you're grateful for. And then I will focus on. Those 3 prompts, all research backed, just take 2 minutes and they set your morning up for success. Mm-hmm. And they help you get out of bed without, being distracted by whatever's on Twitter. But yeah, we're certainly living in a mental health pandemic now, 100%.
That's incredible. Yeah. But so with the pandemic, and this literally applies to every single one of us. So I can talk about my situation, the pandemic. My work stopped. MCing, you told everyone, DJing, everything stopped.
Yeah.
My boyfriend broke up with me. I had health issues. They're like, we think you have cancer. Oh my God. My mom was sick. Everything was falling apart. Okay? So I don't think I'm the only one that whose life felt like it fell apart. What would I do? Like, I understand those 3 things in the morning and that ritual, but walk me through it. I have I would have, even still sometimes, I have no idea even how to change that brain and think of the moment and just of today. Well, and what could I do?
Well, and thanks for sharing your personal story. And I know your mom's here, right?
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, because I think you pointed her out. And your sister's here.
This man is pointing to, how did you know she was my mom?
Because your mom said you were her daughter, so it's perfect. You tied it together. Somebody says her mom's here, and her mom's.
Everyone say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Thank you for coming. And one of the best parts of it. We're on the street, so this is maybe my 3rd or 4th time coming. It used to be always here at Queen's Park, and then it was down at Harbourfront. But it's an outdoor festival, and interestingly, we're not spending enough time outdoors, just in general, right? So. You like numbers. So kids these days are now spending 7% of their days outside, which is the lowest level. That's according to the American Time Use Survey. That's the lowest level ever in history. You multiply 7% a day times 7 days a week. That means a kid takes a whole week now to spend half a day outside. So we have what a lot of people are calling NDD, or nature deficit disorder. Meanwhile, we've also got similar research showing that trees release a chemical called phytoncides that lower your cortisol, lower your anxiety, lower your adrenaline. So one of the solutions is knowing where your closest park is, trail is, forest is, all that stuff, and getting outside more. I don't just mean just for you. I just mean, we're living downtown, these concrete jungles. It's harder and harder to find safe, sacred park space. Find it, know where it is, and use that as a place to nourish yourself. We're not spending nearly enough time outside. Being outside more is a big. I say sometimes, the solution to most problems is a long 3-hour walk in the woods.
Right. Yes.
And I've gotten really into bird watching in the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's making me go outside to kind of see what's out there, and it takes you out of yourself. Not only does it take you out of yourself, it takes you out of your species. you know, because your problems aren't that big in the grand scheme of things.
No, and that's fantastic. And we actually had a talk this morning. You know, I mean, with the million people in our crowd right now, I do recognize a couple of them. Those two over there.
Yeah.
I think they were in our session this morning. And we were just talking about the relationship between us, land stewardship, and nature, and non-human things. And I think what you're saying is really bringing ourselves back to that relationship. So thank you for that. But the one thing that you did mention is about children. And so I'd like to actually talk about that. Children, what did you say? Spend 7% outdoors.
Yeah.
So with all of, when I look at education, we are taught, do this, you will be happy. Children, you know, do this exam, you know, you're going to get graded, et cetera, et cetera. So how do we shift this mindset of how we raise the next generation into the equation of happiness first, and then goals, and then success?
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
Well, there's a lot there. There's a woman in the U.S. in New York named Lenore Skenazy who she wrote an article for the New York Post in 2009. It went really viral called "Why I Let My 9-Year-Old Take the Subway by Himself," and she was dubbed.
Oh my gosh!
She was dubbed America's Worst Mom. The next day, she was on the Today Show, the early show, all this stuff. But turns out that she was really onto something. And the people in the world with the lowest instances of adolescent and 20-something mental health challenges are the ones that have more free-range style parenting. And so I'm talking the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Norway, etc. Therefore, one of the takeaways is she started a nonprofit foundation together with Jonathan Haidt from NYU. He wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. And Peter Gray, who wrote the book Free to Learn. And the nonprofit's called Let Grow. And what they're really trying to do is just give parents, they're trying to challenge all the laws that have kind of been created over the last 20 years that sort of, you get in trouble or arrested if your kid's found outside without you around them.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. In Toronto, it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's a problem because we want kids and parents to kind of develop more independence, and the only way to do that is to give them more independence. Like, let your 6-year-old ride their bike out of sight. Let your 9-year-old, you know, sit in the ice cream place.
Did you see everyone's faces? They're like, oh.
I know we kind of fall ashen when we hear these things, but when we keep our kids so close that they don't get to learn on their own, then we're setting them up for failure when they are forced to learn on their own in their 20s and in their 30s. And I'm a parent. My wife and I have little boys. It's hard for me as well, and I'm not good at it yet. But these are some of the things I think that we need to do. So free range parenting, Let Grow, this institution I think is doing a lot of great work. And Jonathan Haidt, by the way, who I mentioned, he's also he's at the forefront of the research on social media. And you asked, what can we do? What can we change? First off, the social media age is definitely wrong. It's 13. In China, where TikTok is made and invented and run, you have to get an 18-year-old sign off, and they shut off TikTok every single night at 10 p.m. The whole country. It doesn't work. TikTok does not work in China from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So Jonathan Haidt's at the forefront. He's actually shown the real deep correlation between the instances of smartphone and social media and massive issues of mental health. There's total direct correlation. I don't know why we're not talking about this enough. Social media is only 5,000 days old. That's part of the issue. The age 13 came up in 1996 as the Digital Freedom Act. Social media wasn't invented till the 2000s. So we're using a fake number, the age 13, that we came up with way before social media was invented. Social media should not be used by 13-year-olds. It should definitely not be used by 13-year-olds. We should increase the age. And another thing, recess. Where's recess? Recess should be all the way up. It shouldn't just be in elementary school. It shouldn't just be 15 minutes. It should be longer. It should be all the way up, including high school and university.
Let's give a big round of applause for that one. Yeah. But you do want everyone to Instagram you and Facebook you right now.
I don't care about that. I deleted all those apps on my phone.
You?
Yeah, I've deleted all the apps. I know I still do it. So what I do, and what's what I recommend people do is, sure, get an account. If you have an account, have it. Just delete the apps on your phone so that you don't check them compulsively. You can still log in on your laptop, just what I do if I need to. And then I use Buffer. You can use Hootsuite. I use one of these. So once a month, I write the content, and then it automatically posts. I just set it up to post once a day. Yes, as a result, my following won't be as large, but I'm preserving my own mental health. I get to come be here, talk to people in real life, go bird watching, and these are things that are more important. So, yeah, I think that we will look back. The way that people look back in the 70s were like, I couldn't believe the doctors were smoking cigarettes in the waiting room. We will look back and say, I can't believe that 12 and 13-year-olds were using TikTok, and we didn't think that was a problem. That's a huge issue.
So we have 2 more questions for Neil, and I want to give you the heads up because we do want to spend a lot of time on your questions, okay? So you talked about putting your phones away, taking the social media apps off your phone so that you could go bird watching and speak to all of us here today. In our daily lives, I mean, for me, I feel like it's a rat race. I am chasing, the housing market to try to find a place to live. I am working 3 jobs right now just to feel like I could have some financial freedom or a better future for my life, my family's life, and all of that.
Yeah.
How do what can you say and recommend to take this pause? Because you specifically talk about gratitude and these little moments of gratitude. I can't do that. How do I do that?
So I totally hear you, and you're saying I don't have time for that, and I hear you. So, look, the average lifespan in Canada right now is 30,000 days. That's the total Canadian lifespan. It's just 5,000 days higher than the global lifespan, which is 25,000. So we get an extra 5,000 here. And for each of those 30,000 days that we have, we're awake for 1,000 minutes. So in your 3 jobs, in your housing, with your housing and your all the family building stuff you're doing, you have 1,000 minutes a day. It's the same I have. It's the same everybody has. On average, people are awake for 1,000 minutes a day. So what my challenge would be back to you is, could you take 2 minutes? If you don't want to do the morning thing, that's fine. Maybe at dinner with a partner or a friend or your mom. Could you just play Rose, Thorn, Bud at dinner? This is a simple game. It takes 2 minutes. You say, hey, Mom, what's your rose of the day? Oh, I got a shady spot under the umbrella. I got to see my daughter on stage. What was yours, right? And you can...
Mine? I got to speak to Neil Pasricha.
Right, there you go. And so you go back and forth. You do rose, and you do it again, a second rose. And remember what you're actually doing here when you conjure up one specific. Specific is important. Don't say my husband, say when my husband put the toilet seat down. Don't say my dog, say when my puppy stopped peeing on the pillows. So be specific, okay? When you're specific, you're actually triggering an area called Area 17 in your visual cortex to light up again. That's rose. Then a thorn. What didn't go well? So this comes more naturally and easy to people. It's not just you. We got 3 million years of evolution in our brains. We got an amygdala in there. This thing's secreting fight or flight hormones all day. We're not going to get rid of it. If you get rid of it, you're gone. So that's part of your brain. Then you say a thorn, and then a bud, B-U-D. A bud is something you're looking forward to. So you end the game on something you're looking forward to. It's a 2-minute practice. You can do it over dinner. You can do it with your partner before bed. And all you're doing is taking 2 minutes out of the 1,000 you have to try to work in some of this stuff, even amidst the busy life you have.
I mean, I feel like I can invest 2 minutes a day in my 1,000 minutes for the full day.
There you go.
It's just
and
2
if you
minutes.
don't do it, then don't feel bad. Just try again the next day. That's the other thing is the goal's not to be perfect.
I know,
it's
there's
just to
so
be better
much
than
guilt.
before.
I have so much guilt. Yeah, but it's not. This is not a guilty thing, and it's not to make yourself have guilt that you didn't do it, right? If you didn't, that's okay. You can forgive yourself. Not a big deal.
And let's remember the stuff I'm talking about has no ad campaigns. It has no marketing budget. It's not in any billboards. No algorithm is going to feed you recommendations to go out into nature, to read more books. These things do not have a capitalistic, they don't have a capitalistic supported model, but they're so good for exercise, getting outside, talking to your mom, playing Rose Thorn Bud, doing journaling. All this stuff is not going to be presented to you in an appetizing way, unlike everything else.
Right.
So we have to on our own decide that we want to take our lives back. And it takes work.
That's right. So again, just repeating that, we have to decide on our own to take our lives back. I think that's something that we should all remember. And so for my last question to Neil before we move to the audience, Neil, can you just tell me about your day? How do you start your day? What do you do? Do you drink coffee? Let's start there.
I've never had a coffee or tea.
What?
Ever. Yeah, really. Yeah.
Okay, now you're lying.
No, I'm not lying.
No?
I just.
This is a lie.
Yeah. I know. My friends used to say you don't want to see me on caffeine, but yeah, no, okay, so some systems I have in place. Number 1, the phone's out of the bedroom. Okay, that's the first thing. Number 2, 2-minute mornings. We've already talked about that. If I miss a day, I don't sweat it. I just do it the next day. Okay, or if at worst case scenario, I think it. So instead of writing it down, if I can't journal, I think, okay, I'll let go of, I'm grateful for, I'll focus on. It's a simple practice. You can do it over and over again. Then I spend a long time in the morning with my kids. So that's really...
What's a long time in the morning?
Well, like 3 hours.
Wow.
Like from 5:30 to 8:30, solo with my kids.
Are they awake?
Every day, yeah, they're awake. Yeah,
Oh,
I have 4
okay.
boys under 9. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, they're awake.
They're awake, yeah. I've been doing that for nine, almost 10 years now. And so I do that part solo. And then my wife is present for them during the days, and then we co-parent at night. So that's our system, and so that includes making breakfast, cleaning up breakfast, walking them to school, all that stuff, and then during the day. If I'm lucky enough, I can record a podcast. I'll be writing. Don't forget though, the thing is, like, this is the part that most people miss. They're like, oh, you can do all this stuff because you're a writer, so you just get to wander around. I did this on the side of my job at Walmart for 8 years. So for 8 years, I just thought a week has 168 hours, and you divide it by 3, it's 3 buckets of 56. 56 hours of sleep, that's 8 hours of sleep a night times 7 days a week. 56 hours for a job. I mean, you have a 40-hour-a-week job, but let's round it up, okay? So 56 hours, and then you have 56 hours to do whatever you want. And it turns out, because my wife left me and because I wasn't married to have kids, I had a whole bucket left. And so that's why I was writing this blog. I wrote 5 books at Walmart.
Wow,
while
that's
at Walmart,
fantastic.
yeah. And then I left Walmart after my 5th book, and so But I think it's not that I get to do these things because I'm right. It's the opposite. I'm a writer because I'm doing all these practices. The practices create the results. It's not the other way around. So, yeah,
it's flipping all these equations around,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. All these things are backwards.
These things are backwards.
They really are.
Yeah.
And so that's and then I'll be home with the kids. And then sometimes I travel. Tomorrow I'm going to give a speech in Whistler. So I'm 7 hours on
Congratulations.
7 hours
exciting.
flying there
Yeah.
and up the mountain, and then I'll be back. As long as it takes to get back the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So no coffee, everyone.
No coffee.
That's the moral of the story.
No coffee, yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to move to the audience now for questions.
So put up your hands. Any hands are good.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
She has a question right here.
Okay. And one at the back over there too.
I have one question before I got to run
The runner's got a question.
and do my more programming things.
Yes.
What's your favorite bird?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Well, my spark bird, and birding lingo for those that are birders, spark bird is the bird that got you into birding. And so for me, it's a rose-breasted grosbeak, because during the pandemic, I was like, what the heck is that bird? It looks like a robin, but it looks different. And I figured out it was a rose-breasted grosbeak. That got me into it. And yeah. I still have an affinity for Blue Jays, too.
Oh, yeah.
Toronto, Canada,
I know,
Blue Jays,
it's
there
hard.
we go.
I know they're a bit pesky, but yeah, they're stunning and they're beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
so
you.
because of that first question, we have a book for you. Yes, would you? Yes, you. Yes, you.
Sienna.
Sienna.
Bless your heart.
Congratulations.
There's 2 questions here and then one there. Yeah.
Sorry, so the next question right here in the front with the blue hat. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. And so my question is, I find that I feel tired around the mid-afternoon, and I was just wondering, you haven't yet addressed that, but do you have any recommendations on what we might be able to do around that time to feel like more refreshed and then lead into, the rest of the day?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I think that's not just you. I mean, you can see the lineups at Tim Hortons at 2 o'clock. It's everybody. We're looking for usually a quick fix. I think that if you can, it's just movement. Energy is created by energy, getting outside. I don't know where you work or if you're inside or outside, or, I don't know anything about your kind of personal life, but just whatever you can do to inject like a bit of a dose of nature, or I think there's a big, how come when I go to a park, it's empty? Like literally, our parks are. I know that we don't have that many of them, but if you come walk through Queens Park in the middle of the day, there's not really that many people here.
Actually, if you look, I know we're at a festival right now, but if you look behind you at the grass, there's barely any people on the grass right now.
I know. It's just we have to get your body moving, and then it's Rich Roll, the podcaster, always uses the famous phrase "mood follows action," and so just try. It's hard to get yourself into that, but just push yourself to walk out that door without your phone. Leave the phone on the desk. This is the hard part at work. I mean, I was at Walmart, everybody's at their BlackBerry at the time. We're going out for sushi, and meanwhile, everyone's on their phone the whole time. So I just started leaving my phone on the desk for the hour. It feels panic-ridden at first, but then you realize no one died when you got back, and so leaving your phone behind and just taking 20 or 30 minutes to go outside. I have a model in the Orange Book I advocate called the Untouchable Day. And people write back, I can't do that. So just even an untouchable hour, it would be helpful.
Yeah, start small. Remember,
Start small.
Or the gratitude, the rose, thorn, and bud. Just 2 minutes out of 1,000 minutes a day. Therefore, you just take that 1 hour and put your phone down, right? So it's achievable.
It's achievable.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
question. Here you go.
What do you think? I don't have a smartphone.
Great.
Never tempted me.
Oh, great.
And what's your beverage of choice?
Yeah.
So comment on why people might not have
A smartphone? Comment on why people might not have a smartphone. They are
well,
enlightened.
maybe I could.
They are smart. Yeah, it's interesting. What I've been reading about on the internet lately is more and more people having, quote unquote, like, a serotonin phone and a dopamine phone. And the serotonin, which is the good chemical that you want to flush your body with, it comes when you kiss somebody or when you hug somebody or when you achieve something with purpose. The serotonin phone is just like the tools. It might just be the 3 or 4 apps that you use kind of for tools. And then the dopamine phone is the one that you have kind of loaded with, your social media and all these, all that stuff. And so there's more and more people getting two, but I think having none's better. And so I think it's just wonderful that you don't. So what if most people will say, what if you need to call an Uber? What if you need to look up your directions where you are? And these are the types of tools people are using. So what do you do in that case?
Well, I talked to people. So I got lost yesterday. I was going to church for bazaar.
Well, that's an odd thought.
And there were some people sitting on the patio that looked like they might live in the neighborhood. It was on St. Clair. And I said, can you tell me where? And he Googled it for me and told me.
You use other people's smartphones. That does work.
Does that count?
Yeah, that does work. So, I mean, it's great. I do think more people will migrate that way. I like to leave my phone at home. My wife and I went out for dinner last night, and I didn't take my phone. When you don't have it, it feels better afterwards, you know.
Could you just repeat what we should do in the morning?
Sure.
I missed it.
No, absolutely. My beverage of choice. I know one time I was, I'm sharing my banking details now, but one time I was doing, my wife Leslie saw me entering like, those passwords, like, what was your first car? And she was laughing so hard because it was like, what's your favorite drink? And I typed in water. She's like, water's your favorite drink? Yeah.
I'm in the same
I like
boat as
cocktails.
your wife.
I do like cocktails. Interesting cocktails, great. The morning, it's three prompts. You just write down, I will let go of. Okay, so you try to crystallize and eject an anxiety. And there's a reason why every single religion, from Catholicism, Buddhism, Mormonism, Judaism, Islam, almost every world religion has a form of confession or repentance built into the religious practice. Meanwhile, the fast-growing religion in Canada right now is none. And we have now a secular majority, which means over 50% of Canadians have no religion. So we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater here. There's a lot of value in saying something you need to let go of, that you need to get off your chest. And then I am grateful for. Okay, so you're now working that muscle to remember something positive. And I will focus on carving out a will do from your endless could do and should do.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
There's
a lot of
there's
questions
lots of hands
here.
over
I love
too.
this. Actually, the woman in the green, she actually had a question from this morning. She found me and said, you are moderating Neil's panel. I have a question.
I do have a question.
Yes.
This is a new question, actually.
Could you also just, everybody, could you say your name before
I'm
you?
Isabel.
I know you're Isabel because I met you before, but so that everybody can meet you.
So, Anime, you told us in the introduction that, Neil, you went to Queen's. As Queen's, I guess, alumni, that's weird to say, I'm wondering what your most awesome moment was when you were studying at Queen's.
Yeah,
if you have any.
Probably stuff it was my first introduction to the double-decker poutine. Okay, I'm talking fries, cheese gravy, topped with fried cheese gravy. That was Bubba's Poutine. That was wonderful. The number 13 at Walk-In on Montreal Street. That's a tiny Cambodian restaurant run by this beautiful couple from Phnom Penh, wedged between the strip club and the methadone clinic. Okay, they had a great stuff there. Just being on in residences. I was in Morris Hall, so it was on the lake. So just being on lakefront. Now you realize,
on West.
Right? So you realize what lakefront property really is worth when you get to Toronto. I thought Queens had just wonderful histories and traditions. Getting lost in Matt Corey, there's so much there. I did 4 years of Golden Words as well. So that was a big part of it for me.
I love Golden Words. It's a good one.
Yeah,
we have
Isabel.
a Queen's group here.
Yeah.
No, it's just the two of us.
Oh, okay. Group 2. 2 is group, right? No?
Company.
There we go.
Nando's in the house. Good to see you. Good to see you, Nando.
We have a couple more questions. Yes, you, sir, with the hat and the sunglasses. There's a microphone.
Right behind
1
you.
second.
And I think she was also given the microphone on this side, too. And then this side. We got to get over to this side.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What do you think of children in sports who don't have an opportunity to fail?
Oh, this thing is terrible. Yeah, what's up with this stuff? I know my niece is on a basketball team, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's fair play. I was like, what's fair play? She's like, well, it means everyone gets to play at the same amount of time. I said, that's not fair play. That's equal play. And fair and equal aren't the same. Exactly. Fair play means if you're benched, you suck. You suck if you're benched. And, you know, and that's a good lesson to learn, you know, and that's fine. You know, I was the worst player on my baseball team. It haunted me at the time, but you have to, no, I think that this whole ribbon for everyone thing is just a terrible thing. Yeah, we got to get rid of that. I tell my kids when they suck at stuff. And I don't let them beat me at things. I want them to learn how to beat me at things. I don't let them beat me at things.
We should also bring back the red pen. I heard there's no X's or red pens anymore.
And I'm also a fan of casts. That's the other thing. It's like, you know, my 2-year-old's in a leg cast right now. He broke his leg, okay? And everyone's like, oh, no, it's too bad. I'm like, no, it's great. This is a wonderful thing for him. This is going to really help him over the course of his life. I didn't break a bone. That's why I was such a wimp my whole life. You know what I mean? We got to go the other way.
Thank you so much. Oh, here, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
I was wondering if your philosophy, that positive outlook, came out of an experience, or were you always like that?
Yeah, and my wife left me, and my best friend took his own life. And so those things happened in 2008 at the same time. And so I started this blog as a way to kind of reach for something, 1000awesomethings.com. And for 1,000 days in a row, I wrote one awesome thing every single day. It got popular, it turned into, you know, and then people started coming to me saying, well, how'd you be happy? How do you do this? And I didn't have any answers for them because I was just writing about warm underwear out of the dryer. Sorry, I can't help you, lady. And so, but then people started asking me this question, and it sort of created this depressed sun in my mind that everybody's looking for how to be happy, and I was searching for it myself. So all I've done over the 12, 13 years since is just try to look for it and write about it as I figure things out. Yeah, and still figuring out a lot, and still have a lot not figured out. So, yeah. Yes. Hi.
My question is about technology versus using Area 17 in the brain. Did you say? Okay,
analog
so
stuff.
What are your views on AI and its creativity power? It's just 700 words or something.
I'm pretty scared of AI personally. At the same time, I also really believe that, you know, the future bends towards optimism. I interviewed a guy for my podcast. My podcast is called 3 Books, named Kevin Kelly, and he really does make you think more positively over time. I see some people nodding. So it's just like, AI can solve a lot of things. I actually think that we have we're more likely to figure out cancer now, you know, than we were before. There's just a lot more likelihood that diseases are going to be cured, that, you know, we're going to figure out things about our body. I think lifespan's going to really elongate, all these, you know, quote unquote positive things. And there will be massive new problems, and maybe we'll have to use AI to solve some of them. So it's just a wild time. I do. It is the thing that scares me the most. I've talked to my therapist about my fear of AI. Yeah. Because I am pretty scared of a lot of stuff that's happening out there. And the biggest thing is, like, someone could just grab 2 seconds of this voice off of my podcast or off of here. They can make me say anything, and from any perspective. We won't be able to trust photos and videos anymore. And then you get a destabilization effect on reality itself. And then I think what happens is, reality becomes destabilized. And then I think we go back to tribal. And then I think we fall back to tribal, which is us in a room sitting together like this, not in a room, but all hanging out together. And then we start to believe like things like the town criers again, because we can't trust media. So I'm just sort of like, I think this is going to be a wild few years. Yeah. But I hope it bends towards positivity over the long run. I do think that is what I'm holding on to.
So we have time for about 2 more questions.
We got to get to this side.
We have to do this side.
We have to get some over to this side.
Okay, so maybe 3 more questions.
Hi.
What's your name?
Hi, my name's Lucas. So you mentioned earlier that connecting with nature is like pretty integral to happiness.
Yeah.
Well, what advice would you give someone who wants to reconnect with nature?
But what's getting in the way? What's the hold up?
What doesn't get in the way?
Yeah, the time wise. Yeah, time. Where like you live downtown kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So exactly. Like you work. You live downtown.
Uh-huh.
You're caught in the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And you don't know. And there's a lot of green space, but it's not. It's not enough.
Well, you know what I found is that I started doing is I go to Google Maps and I just look at the map and I find all the green spots and I just go there. And it's weird when you do that. I know it sounds obvious, but you're like, oh yeah, the islands. We've got these beautiful Toronto islands. There's ferries going there 365 days a year. and that you can take your bike across, and it's right there. It's right at the bottom, you know. And you look at the green stuff. I'm like, oh, there's this ravine here. There's this ravine there. There's a lot more around us than we think. And if it's making time, I mean, that's a question of priorities. But you know, it's carving out moments in the day before work or after work to just get outside, get in nature. The other thing that happens when you're in nature is you crave going out into nature more, and your work feels a lot less important. You know, it just feels less important because you're surrounded by things that are much older than your work, and you realize that your work isn't that big a deal. So it's just carving out the time, and if you have to, go on Google Maps and look for the green dots and try to figure out what's near you that you might not see. Yeah.
It could also be about this ruthless prioritization, right? I think now in this COVID world, we have a little more options of working from home. So maybe it's almost a change of lifestyle of working from a new home that's closer to green space. And so that you create opportunities to get out there. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But there are different choices that we can now make and be more aware and conscious of them.
And standing up, and I think we gotta protect the green belt, and we gotta protect the areas that we have that are vital to our. You know, we have to keep what we've got.
Remember, voting's on June 26th, everyone. Just a reminder. We have some questions on this side.
I really want to get this side because these people had their hands up from the very beginning.
There was a person with a microphone.
And then
now.
Can you pass it then and pass it?
So we have 1, 2,
Over
3
there.
more questions. Okay, those are the
There's
3.
That guy over there. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Julia. I switched to a flip phone this year because I also am a social media hater.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I've been working towards kind of mindfulness. And I was wondering, do you meditate, and how much value do you put into kind of how much value do you give meditation in your own life?
Yeah, I've tried so hard to. I know that's good for you. There's all kinds of research about it. I know it. I even did the Transcendental Meditation course, and I just struggle to sit still. I don't know if you could tell. So I basically have decided that there's myths about meditation, that it has to be still, that it has to be quiet, instead I've realized that long nature walks, you know, or what I call bird watching, or these things I do, are actually doing the same thing, you know, as what meditation is doing. And people sometimes ask me, oh, what about prayer? What do you think about prayer? It turns out the research on prayer says the same thing as meditation. It does the same thing. It gets the part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, more activated. And so I'm a fan of meditation. I support meditation, but I also know that most people just can't do it. And so what I would like them to do is just recognize that a long bike ride in the wind, you know, a stroll, these types of things where you're observing of what's around you, that's good. That's good enough. You did it. That's what I'm telling myself too. Over here.
Hello, my name is Gavin. So yeah, I think it's a good time for me to ask the question towards the end. So, like a lot of things, like people have covered, right? Like you gotta get more iron, practice gratitude, get leafy greens, do your like meditation, and all kinds of things, right? I feel like all those things, like although it's like okay, it's 2 minutes for this, 2 minutes for that,
right?
So there are two aspects for it. One is like it's taking a lot of the time. If you add them up, right, like everything is kind of important. And the second thing is like it's a lot of little things where like it actually takes away a lot of my attention from like the other like main part of my job. So for example, if I was you, like thinking about like I need to play with my kids or I need to practice gratitude may take away like my mind from like the writing part. So like what's your suggestion on it?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great question to close with, and it's also a great way to close with my highest level takeaway of all this stuff we've talked about, which is the goal with everything I've said is not to be perfect. It's just to be better than before. We've mentioned 5, 10, 20 different ideas. If one works for you for 3 days, that's good. And then you have something that you have it as a practice that you can go back to, that you can revisit, you can try again. Don't worry if you can't do all this stuff all the time. Neither can I, neither can anyone. Okay? It's just about taking stuff that works, practicing a little bit. The reason our Book of Awesome is written the way it's written is because it's meant to be a bathroom book. It's meant to be a bedside table book. It's meant to be a book that you could just flip open and it could just give you a few minutes, like the reading at the beginning, just a couple minutes to just jog your mind a different way. We're going to be facing this battle our whole lives. Again, the whole machine is oriented to make you think you suck at everything. That you're ugly, that you stink, that you aren't good looking enough. That's why we're covered in billboards and plastic surgery clinics and everything telling us our face is wrong, our clothes are wrong. That's going to be the machine you live in and I live in forever. So observing it, recognizing that you're good the way you are, And doing some of these practices to help is not easy, but it's what we need to do. I've just given you a barrage of ammo to help you on the journey. Okay, that's all. I'm trying just as much as you are, and it's just a little bit. It's a little bit. That's all we can do. The machine is going to tell us we stink, we don't, we're great. This stuff just helps.
Neil, we have one more question in the audience. I think she was waiting for some time.
Hi, my name is Ari.
Hi, Ari.
I'm nervous.
No, don't. Yeah, it's okay.
I'm kind of new to Canada, so I have to be very honest. I've never heard about you.
Yeah, that's okay.
So when you
nobody's
came
heard
up
of-
before and say, "Hey, I'm Neil," I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I was like, "Hi," you know. I was
Yeah.
really nervous, and now that I've heard about you talking about all of these things, I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to read your books. So I'm a huge fan now. So my question is, what do you think about being vulnerability?
Yeah.
You know, because I'm also a huge fan of Brené Brown.
Yes, yeah.
I don't
she's
know if you
great.
heard about her.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and you talk about depression and, you know, being grateful. So I want to know what you think of that, because I've heard that also when you talk about depression, the contrary to that is expression.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to know
And
what you think
connection,
of that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
connection to each other, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, welcome. First, where'd you move from?
Mexico, with my husband.
Oh, great. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. And
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks. What a great way to come to Canada. Is just also be at the Word on the Street Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to meet you too. And I am a big fan of Brené Brown. You know, the podcast Anime mentioned, which is called 3 Books. I'll probably release a recording of this on the podcast. But Leslie and I, my wife and I, sat down and interviewed her to ask her what her 3 most formative books are, which are The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and 2 Bell Hooks books, all about love and teaching to transgress. And so, yeah, I mean, vulnerability's been hard work for me my whole life. In the orange book that some of you got, that is called You Are Awesome. That's my book on resilience. I mean, I wrote some stories in it that are very, very vulnerable. And the thing that happened to me is that in 2010, when I gave a TED Talk about the story of losing my wife and losing my friend, and I starting this blog, a lot of love poured back to me. A lot of emails poured back to me. A lot of letters came back to me, and it just taught me the lesson from the beginning, which is that the more you can share, the more people share with you. So my email address has always been open. I keep my DMs open. I try my best to respond to everybody that sends me a note. And I think when we're going to have to be vulnerable, because again, what I'm saying about social media is true. The algorithms are oriented to tell you that you stink and that everyone's great. So vulnerability is one of our only salves. And vulnerability IRL, or in real life, is even better, like what we're doing today. So, yeah, so thank you for your question, and thanks for coming today.
Neil, thank you so much for joining us. This was a wonderful talk. Did you all have a great time? Yes, it was wonderful.
And Anime, like, she doesn't get paid to do this. She's working as an accountant during the day, DJ by night. She was invited to come down here. You put a lot into it. You reached out. You did research. You came up with questions. Thank you so much for doing this. It's a really big gift.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. No, I enjoy this, and I enjoy meeting all of you and you as well, Neil. Okay. I have a little thing, like I feel like this is a really awesome audience, and I don't know if you'll be into this, but did you want to make a quick video? Because I know he told us to not do social media, but that's how I get my jobs, so I might have to put that one on hold. But maybe, Neil, if you'd like to stand up, and we're going to do a quick video, and everyone on 3 will say, "Word on the street." Yeah! Ready? Does that make sense? Okay, let's do this. All right. Okay, so ready? 1, 2, 3. Word
on the street. Yeah!
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you,
Thank you.
and have a great afternoon. Thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you, Brent.